So one morning when Srila Prabhupada woke up, this is a nice pastime exhibiting, as we all know is the fact. The pure devotee is not under the influence of the modes of material nature. When he sleeps, it's not in ignorance. It's just another time when he is engaged in Krishna's service. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, and Srila Prabhupada woke up, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj helped raise him up, and then immediately Prabhupada began preaching very enthusiastically with a loud voice, saying, I want you to go to the West and preach. Ask these people, do you want to grow old? No. You are forced to grow old. Do you think I want to get old? Nobody wants to grow old, but this is the laws of nature. You are forced. You must surrender to Krishna if you want to become free of this birth, death, disease, and old age. So seeing Srila Prabhupada wake up, and in 1 second, in 1 moment, preaching on the transcendental platform, and to my contaminated vision, it looked like he had been meditating this way during his sleep, how he would be preaching, how he wanted his disciples to carry on. And I remember one pastime where I was in the garden. We were reading from, after chanting, reading from first canto Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'd forgotten exactly what verse it was, but they were reading the Sanskrit translation verse and purport. And they read the word for words and came to the word Muni. And we all know what Muni means. Well, the word for word translation was a verb. It wasn't a noun. Muni being a person, a sadhu, a thoughtful person. It was a verb. And Srila Prabhupada said, read that again. And so they read Muni and said the verb that was there. And he said, who has done this? And then the devotees realized, who has changed this? Who is that rascal? And of course, some Prabhu's name was mentioned. He said, this will ruin our movement. You change one word on my books and it can ruin the movement. And he was so emphatic and heavy about this point. And of course, I want it to be understood as I understand it anyway. I share that. I don't want it to be misunderstood what I'm saying. I offer all respects to the Prabhus who have service doing the books, who are editors, who've been given that service by Srila Prabhupada. Dravida Prabhu in particular was mentioned today, glorified appropriately. But what I understood is we can't change the message of the spiritual master. There's such a great danger in that. Don't change anything, and we all know that instruction of Srila Prabhupada, and I got to see personally how fiery Srila Prabhupada was in making this point. Some of his godbrothers and Gaudiya Mat sannyasis came to visit him in his room. By this time, he was simply lying down on the bed, basically just laying on the bed. He would ask to be turned over. He had not eaten for a long, long time. He had said, now I am finished with eating. I've conquered sleeping. There's no question of sex life. Now all material activities finished. And he also asked the devotees, why do you pray for me to stay? This bag of bones is useless. Devotees don't like to see the film of his last day. They don't really like to see so many pictures of Srila Prabhupada in these Antya Leela. But this is the Goswami that our spiritual master was. He stayed here for us, only so we would develop more and more attachment to him. He said as much to Bhavananda Maharaj at the time. It is my duty to draw this attachment from you, for me. But the pastime I was going to say, the sannyasis came, and Srila Prabhupada was asked to be propped up on the pillow, and he said, please excuse my not being able to properly receive you. And there were some exchanges there. And he said, please forgive me for all my offenses. He said, sometimes in preaching there are some strong words that are spoken, and I would like to ask for forgiveness. And of course, they appropriately responded, no, 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 there's been no offense. The offense is ours. Please forgive us. And then they began talking in Bengali. And later I asked one Bengali devotee, one devotee who spoke Bengali, what did he say? And I believed what he shared with me because it was in the same mood. But he said, also please forgive my devotees. Sometimes they think they're the only devotees. I've had time to teach them prachar, but not achar, meaning preaching. That is the essence. What else could he do in the short time that he had with us? He had to send out this army of monkeys and simply ask us to spread the glories of Lord Chaitanya via book distribution, Harinam, and all the other wonderful activities of ISKCON. But he said, I didn't have time to preach them the etiquette, so sometimes we are very rusty in that regard, and not so good. But anyway, the humility is what I am making the point of trying to glorify Srila Prabhupada. No offense on his part. Every move, every thought, every word dictated by the Supreme Lord, and only out of compassion for us was he remaining here in those last months. And sometimes, raised a Christian, they say, oh, they glorify Jesus Christ, he died for our sins. Because my love was really secured for Srila Prabhupada during those last months. I like to think how actually his glories is that he kindly chose to stay with us longer than it was certainly convenient. Maharaj Radhanath Swami was talking about the sacrifices he made. Anybody, it's nice to hear how many devotees, there are a number of devotees who were here in the last days, but anybody who saw or heard Kaviraj, the doctor, saying, simply lying on the bed with no body fat left from not eating, it was like the nerves, it was like being on fire. Just the skin and the nerves rubbing against the bone. Did Srila Prabhupada complain once? No. Did he ask for morphine for the pain? No. He simply wanted to be with his devotees and have us chant Hare Krishna. And I do have to squeeze this in. It was mentioned, but to me it's such an important aspect of Srila Prabhupada's love for us, all of us. He wanted all of us to be here for this passing. He asked that, the instruction was given, we readied canopies on top of the Gurukula building, Fogo Ashram there. He wanted all of his disciples to be with him. He loves us so much. He doesn't forget any single service. We've heard the most insignificant things that we've done, devotees shared that they've done for Prabhupada in his Jai. And that is Srila Prabhupada. How can we give up his service? How can we turn away from him or forget him? We owe him everything. Thank you. A couple of brothers, some Brahmins who were engaged in Hyderabad when the temple was first set up, the deities were installed. South Indian Brahmins, and Srila Prabhupada had told Yasodananda and Achyutananda Swamis to treat them very nicely because they're real Brahmins. Give them anything they want. So in 1977, early in 1977 is when the Murti of Srila Prabhupada was first made. And what is unusual about this is that generally when the spiritual master is on the planet, you don't install his Murti in the temple because everybody comes. I was in Vrindavan at the time, and so many people, I'm sure today, same experiences there, they will come up and they feel they're meeting Srila Prabhupada, that he's sitting on the Vyasa-san, as he truly is. In Vrindavan, sometimes we would see people talk to him, say prayers, bow down to him, and realize then, oh my goodness, this is the Murti of Srila Prabhupada. But Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya, when he heard that this was taking place, that Srila Prabhupada's Murti was going to be installed in Bombay and Vrindavan and so many different temples around the world, at his personal expense, he traveled from Hyderabad, from South India to Bombay, and he wanted to communicate to Srila Prabhupada the Shastric evidence that this is not encouraged at all. Why? Because everybody will come to worship you, they will touch your lotus feet, the Murti's lotus feet. In this way you will take on so much karma from the people and you will have to suffer for this. And he gave so many Shastric references, gave it his best, and this was a learned Brahmin. He gave quite a presentation. It was out of affection for Srila Prabhupada. He was really wanting to do him service in this way. And after Prabhupada patiently listened to him, he finally said, "Don't you understand? That's why I've come." And when Bhattacharya heard this, he immediately stopped, folded his hands, circumambulated Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada 3 times, and then he left. He finally got who Srila Prabhupada was. Karuna prachur